Hello, 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 and welcome back to Rise the Podcast. I'm like silently freaking out right now. I have not said that phrase in nearly 4 or 5 years, and it feels so sweet to be sitting here back talking to all of you. We are also on video now, so if you would like to watch the podcast instead of just listen to it, check us out on YouTube. But I hope in whatever way that you are joining me here today that you are just excited as I am to be back and able to rise together. So if you're new here, this podcast is all about personal development, spirituality, wellness, and helping you rise as the highest version of yourself. I started this podcast when I was 19, and in the process of creating this relaunch, I have gone back and listened to those old episodes, and it is so amazing to hear the knowledge and how confident I was at such a young age and being able to share my experiences and learnings with all of you. And I feel like now, as a newly 24-year-old version of myself, I feel even more capable to build on what I've started and be able to share with you all what I've learned in these years. The past years have been nothing short of a roller coaster. I went from being a sophomore in college when you all first met me, who had no idea what was ahead of her, to now being 2 years post grad and for the first time feeling like I know who I am, what I want, and a little bit of where I'm going. This episode today is going to dive into the at times challenging lessons that I learned along this journey. I'm going to tell you all of the ways that I have learned to trust the direction that I'm being guided, recognize the divine timing present in my life, and appreciate the beauty found in transformation. Something I did when first starting Rise was include a quote of the week in each episode. I feel like it's such a great way to set the stage, get a little synopsis of what we're going to talk about, and also allow someone else to kind of sum up what I'm trying to say in their own words. And so our quote this week to get us back in the groove is going to be a little bit longer than normal. It is by Xana Keithley, and I found this in one of my most challenging times in my life over the past year, and it's something that I kept returning to, so I wanted to share it with you all. It says, "This year I learned that grief and gratitude can coexist, that I can feel my heart crack down the middle and be thankful for the pain because it means that I've lived fully and loved deeply. That I didn't hide from life, but instead chose to pour my whole self into the act of beautiful, hard, messy living. I learned that I can love the life I have now while still taking time to grieve the paths I didn't walk, the lives I didn't get to live, the people who are no longer traveling this path beside me, the visions of a future I once had that can no longer be. I learned that so many times in life, we don't know that the last time we do something is going to be the last, that it often sneaks up on us unexpectedly, and that while we can't prevent the last, we can love what we have now while it's still here just a little bit more. This year, I learned that my heart can handle so much more than I ever gave it credit for. That it's soft but mighty, that it's far stronger than I ever realized, stronger than I even know now. And while sometimes I wish it didn't have to be so strong, I'm grateful for this beating heart for always reminding me that I'm still here, still breathing. I'm grateful for its gentle wisdom and soft nudges, and most of all, I'm grateful that in the joy and the pain, the hope and the heartache, it knows love." I love that quote. I found it on Pinterest and seriously would reread it all the time. I feel like it perfectly sums up what it feels like to be in the midst of a transformation. Transformations are some of the most beautifully painful experiences that we will go through, and that's kind of what I'm going to touch on today. we feel this really immense loss that happens when we have to shed past versions of ourselves. We're also finding strength in overcoming the obstacles and the challenges that are thrown our way. And I feel like above all, through a transformation, we are always learning to trust that the joy and the love will return. These are just some of the lessons that I've learned over the past couple years, and I'm so excited to dive into 3 more, and let's take a look. So I wanted to start off by sharing the inspiration for this episode and honestly the relaunch of Rise itself. As I said before, you guys haven't seen me for like 4 or 5 years. Most of those 4 or 5 years were pretty okay, but 2024 was rough, let me tell you. I started the year out on a high and it very quickly started to fall apart. Every plan I had made for 2024 disappeared quite literally within an instant, and I was left wondering how this could all be happening to me. I think especially as myself, someone who really prides themselves in being goal oriented. I'm always working towards something. I pray daily. I am so focused on my manifestations and really trying to always be this loving and kind version of myself. I seriously could not understand how life started crashing down right in front of me. And I felt like every day I was living a bad dream and it was almost never ending. And this year that I experienced changed me in ways that I never thought possible. And this episode is going to talk about 3 of the lessons that I learned along this journey and the things that I really discovered that I would have never learned if I hadn't gone through this. And I think in the midst of all of it, I was so, questioning, why is this happening to me? I just can't understand. And I'm able to look back, a few months out of that time period of my life and really see that I went through all of that to be able to have this wisdom that I have now and to be able to sit here and share it with you. I had so much passion and love for Rise when I first started it, but it just kind of fell off because I was in more of like a coasting phase of my life and I wasn't really leveling up in a way that I felt like I was capable of helping other people level up. And going through challenging times is something that we honestly never want to experience, but it allowed me to gain more wisdom in a year than I truly gained in the 4 years prior to that. And I just wanted to give you all a little bit of context about what happened so that you can understand some of the examples that I'm going to use throughout this episode and in future episodes, just so we're kind of on the same page. So, like I said, it felt like a bad dream. And to give context, just a little summary of what went down. I started off 2024 on a high. 2 months into the year, my grandpa passed away, which was devastating. I also got broken up with 3 weeks before I was moving in with this person, and I was forced to move back to my little hometown and live with my parents. And I ended up living at home for almost 9 months. I also, in that time period, got furloughed from my job, so I thought that I was going to lose my job. And quite literally, I hit a rock bottom that I didn't even know was possible. I was constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop and truly waking up every day unsure of how to navigate such an immensely difficult time in my life. And one of the things I did was I still turned to podcasts every day. I would go on my walk in my little town on the bike trail every day, listen to my podcast and try to see what can I learn that's going to help me get through this. And that is truly why I wanted to relaunch Rise. I want to, if I can give that semblance of peace, understanding, guidance to one other person who could be going through something similar, that is it. Like, that is my mission, that is my purpose. And it took a year of immense growth, pain, and heartbreak to be able to get to this point. So I just wanted to let you all know a little bit about what's going on. So although it was difficult, I am grateful for the experience because I get to sit here and share it with all of you. And it was not not for nothing. Along my healing journey and being able to navigate these never-ending challenges, I learned 3 very important lessons, and those are what I'm going to share with you today. Lesson number 1 is that life will give you whatever experience is most helpful for the evolution of your consciousness, regardless of what you think should be happening. And so this is actually a quote from Eckhart Tolle, who I reference on this podcast a lot. He's my favorite author. And I'm going to read the entirety of the quote just so it sinks in with you a little bit more. Life will give you whatever experience is most helpful for the evolution of your consciousness. How do you know this is the experience that you need? Because this is the experience you are having at the moment. I love this lesson because I think it brings a lot of peace and understanding to the ups and downs in our life. I think it allows us to have this trust and this knowing that whatever is unfolding in our lives right now is exactly what's supposed to be happening. I think a lot of the times we put up resistance to the bad times and just kind of, question why me, why now, why does another thing have to go wrong? And if you can really root yourself in knowing and just declaring that you understand this is exactly what's supposed to be happening right now, it releases a lot of that resistance and a lot of that questioning around the way that life goes. And over the past year, I will say the number one thing that got me through all of the challenging times is trust. Trust in God, in the universe, and the way that my journey was unfolding. I also wanted to mention, if you're new here to Rise, I use God and the universe interchangeably. Use whatever word fits you. I had to continue to trust in something beyond what I could see or understand, because at times there simply was no explanation. There was nothing to understand for how things hit the fan so hard. So I had to stop looking for these answers. And as someone who is very spiritual, I am also really self-aware and quite an analytical person. And so I feel like in this past year, I tried to approach it in the ways that I approach situations in the past. And one of the things that I commonly was doing was trying to analyze and rationalize how I got to where I was, or how I somehow did something that allowed these events to occur. I was always questioning, what did I do to attract this energy or event into my life? What is this experience trying to highlight for me? Where did I go wrong to allow for this to happen? And I do think it's important for us to take accountability and responsibility for the things that happen sometimes, because I will talk about this in the next lesson, that sometimes we might have played a role. But I think that this is not the end-all be-all solution, trying to rationalize yourself out of situations. And since this past year contained these challenging events that were in all different areas of my life, I felt like the most confused about what God was trying to tell me and how I could possibly have attracted a situation like this. I remember waking up after getting the news about my job on my knees, praying to God, begging for answers. What did I do to deserve this? What are you trying to tell me? And guess what? That answer is never coming. God is not going to come down and tell you why something is happening in your life. And this is where that trust piece needs to come in. You have to have the trust that this is just what's supposed to be happening. It might not make sense, and it might be one of the most painful things you've ever gone through. But if you can stop resisting, and if you can stop questioning, because I feel like when we question, why is this happening? What did I do? We're kind of questioning God and the universe and like their ability to bring us amazing things in life. I don't think we sit there when like beautiful things unfold and really try to dig in. What did I do to deserve this? How did I manifest this? Right? Like, what steps did I take? We just kind of are grateful and move on. And I think we need to have somewhat of the same approach to the more negative experiences or the more challenging times in our life. And I think the answer simply becomes that this event is just another step in your evolution. We cannot continue to evolve and grow and really quantum leap in our lives if we didn't experience some of these challenges. And I think prior to this, I didn't really understand that. And I thought that a lot of the most incredible growth I was experiencing was in the times that I was coasting. And this podcast specifically will bring you so many tools to continue to evolve when you're in those more stable times. But I also wanted to make this episode because I think we often don't know how to handle the bad times. I think we're really good at being stable. We're really good at being comfortable. We don't know what to do when shit hits the fan. And this is the most important time. Like, your challenges and your low points are everything. Let me tell you, like, that is the number one opportunity. And I think as humans, we are naturally risk and pain averse. We want things to be going well for us, and we think that when things are going well, it's a sign of that we're doing something right. And then when things start to go wrong, it's like, what is wrong with me? What did I do? And I think when you are able to have perspective and remove yourself from the situation, which I also wanted to mention, I am not saying to like minimize your feelings. You have to feel your feelings. And I was devastated, heartbroken, upset, frustrated for so much of 2024. I allowed myself the time I needed to feel those emotions, but I also knew this is the time to grow. This is the time. God is giving me an opportunity that I have to take advantage of. So when you're ready to have perspective, come back to this. But if you're in the thick of it, like, let yourself cry, be upset. But I want you to understand that the bad times are inevitable and they're going to manifest in so many different ways for us. And sometimes it really does feel never ending. The message here is always going to be clear. You are exactly where you are meant to be. So stop looking for answers. Don't be like me and try to rationalize and think your way out of all of these situations. Stop looking for what you did to deserve this experience and trust in the knowing that you will be better because of it. I think that's what faith is really all about. And our faith is tested in the most difficult of times. And you have to be able to maintain this level of trust if you're ever going to get back to those good times. Because if you're in the thick of it, thinking that the happiness and joy is not going to return, it's going to take a lot longer for it to return. But if you're able to sit with it, be upset, but still know my joy, my love, my bliss is going to come back to me. This is just what I need to go through right now in order to get to that next level. It brings so much more peace, and we are just better able to detach from outcomes and be less resistant to the way that our journey is unfolding. I want you all to show the universe that you can accept the challenges being thrown at you and that you trust you were led here for a reason. Show that you don't need to understand it all to be thankful, because you trust firmly in the divine timing of your life, in the direction that you are being guided. It is all working out in your favor, and all you have to do is remind yourself of what you believe, what you trust, and ground yourself in all of those things. Lesson number 2 is you attract what you are, and this might not always align with what you want. As I said before, in receiving all of these challenging experiences, I was always trying to think my way through it and really understand where I went wrong with my manifestations. And that's why I said prior, like, you have to combine lesson 1 and lesson 2 to kind of get the whole picture. My belief is that we co-create our lives with the universe, and it's not completely one-sided. So although we can sit here and trust and understand that the events in our lives are unfolding exactly the way that they are meant to, we do play a role in what comes into our lives. We don't play the entire role. It's a co-creation. I think it would be naive for us to not accept some responsibility and accountability for some of the events that happen to us. And this does not apply to everything. I want to make that disclaimer. One of the things like I firmly believe has nothing to do with us is death. Like the death of another person really is not about God's plan for us. That's God's plan for that person. So in that, I wasn't trying to sit here and understand like, what did I do to like manifest my grandpa passing away? Like that affects so many people beyond just myself. So I don't think that can apply in all situations, but if you have tried to manifest something and you notice that it didn't turn out the way that you wanted, I think that this is a really great lesson for you. And the area that this was highlighted for me was with my breakup. I went into attracting that relationship very clear about what I wanted. And I think that was what was so confusing when things took a turn for the worse, because I had always heard that oftentimes when our manifestations don't turn out the way that we wanted to, it's because we weren't specific enough. And I really agree with this. I think a lot of the times we are too broad in the things that we want. And when you are too general about what you're trying to attract into your life, you're kind of leaving gaps for the universe to fill in. And sometimes those gaps are filled with the opposite of what you want. But that explanation didn't really resonate for me because I was really specific about what I was looking for in a partner and in a relationship in general. And a lot of those lined up with the person that I was in a relationship with. And so it was very confusing for me, right? But I knew that because I had put a lot of work into manifesting that there had to have been something that I was missing in some area that I could gain awareness around in order to improve my manifestations for the future. And I had heard the phrase that you attract what you are, but I never really understood it because in the way that my breakup and like this person unfolded, I was like, I'm not a mean, hateful person. Like, that's not me. So like, how did I attract that? And I think that's what's so confusing sometimes in different areas is like, I'm not that way. So how did I attract that? But this is all on a subconscious level, and this is all relating to our beliefs and our subconscious wiring and the vibrations that we're putting out. And so in this situation, and again, this took me months to realize. So if you're in the thick of it right now, give yourself a minute to be able to come back to this. But what I was able to realize is that I was trying to manifest a partner and a relationship so hard and so intently that it was almost like I was desperate for it. And like I said before, this is all subconscious. I was never sitting here thinking I was desperate. You know, I was picky about the people I was with. Like, you wouldn't have thought that I was desperate from the way that I acted and the way that I thought about things, but subconsciously, I felt like there was a lack in my life, and that lack needed to be filled by a partner. And lack energy is one of the worst things that we can put out when we're trying to manifest, because you only manifest what you are. So if I am exuding this lack energy, I'm going to receive lack energy in return. And it unfolds in different ways, right? So like my relationship was awesome for the first few months, and then boom, 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 started going crazy. It was because when I manifested him and manifested that relationship, I was manifesting from a low, desperate vibration. And I, in turn, attracted someone who also was exuding that desperate kind of lack energy. This was all subconscious. We couldn't pick that up in each other, but the universe did. And there's no other real explanation for how we would have aligned with each other. And so I, in turn, received more of the energy that I manifested from originally. Does that mean that I deserved any of the things that happened? Absolutely not. But it definitely provided context on how I was able to attract such a negative situation into my life. And it made me understand that, again, we can only manifest the vibration that we are exuding. And this vibration is a combination of our conscious desires and subconscious beliefs. So although I was clear on what I desired and put out the energy that I was ready for a loving relationship, my subconscious was telling telling the universe that I believed love was hard to come by and that I was scared to be alone. And I, in turn, received a partner who was also probably scared to be alone and then projected that energy onto me and left me abandoned. It's like all of my fears came to life because I was manifesting from such a fearful state, that lack state, that I'm scared I'm not going to have this. All you're going to get is exactly your fear in return. And so all of this is to say that the things we outwardly receive are manifestations of our inner narrative. If you believe, for example, that money is only earned through grinding and budgeting and hard work, you will attract situations where these beliefs are reinforced, and you will probably continue to wonder why money is hard to come by, even though it's something that you desire. And the same concept can be applied to so many things that you may be trying to create in your life. So if you feel like you continue to struggle in the same area that holds something that you desire, you need to take a look inward and see what beliefs may be blocking you from receiving. And sometimes these are really difficult to identify because consciously we don't agree with them. So our subconscious beliefs and the way that our inner narrative works, these aren't things that we typically would say to other people outwardly. Like I said, I wasn't saying to anyone like I'm scared to be alone, but that's what I was projecting. But we can see traces of them in how we react when things go wrong. So let's take an example. If you are trying to manifest a partner, but everyone you attract, you seem to really like, but they never can get there with you. It's situationship after situationship. I want you to take a look at how you react when you get that pattern repeated. Do you say to yourself internally, to other people, another one? All men suck. They all play games. No one wants a real relationship these days. You can't believe anyone. If you notice yourself saying things like that, where that is almost like an automatic thought that appears after this pattern repeats itself, you might have some underlying beliefs that the universe is going to just keep reinforcing to you because you're declaring that's how your life operates. If every time a man disappoints you, you declare all men suck, you are telling the universe you believe all men suck. Our world is a combination of our own beliefs, and that is the reality that we experience. The universe says, oh, she believes all men suck. Let's keep sending her shitty men. And that's what I mean when I say that life is a co-creation. The universe is responding to your desires and your beliefs, but your beliefs are ultimately going to shape the outcome of your desires. Let me say that again. The universe responds to your desires and your beliefs, but your beliefs are ultimately going to shape the outcome of your desires. Your beliefs are the blueprint for your life, and when your desires don't match up with those, the universe is going to default back to what you've been wiring yourself the entire time. So, take a look at the situations or patterns that may be repeating in your life and try to identify how your internal world may be conflicting with your desires. The first step to transformation is awareness, and we need to have that awareness combined with trust in order to get us to exactly where we want to be, along with where the universe thinks we should be guided to. Lesson number 3 is you are always being tested. Will you choose to evolve or stay the same? Now, I don't want to scare you, but I do think that we are always being tested, especially in terms of our manifestations and desires. As I said in lesson 2, you can only attract what you are, and God will continue to test you to see if you are aligned with what you say you're ready for. So let's go back to the money example. Let's say you're trying to manifest more wealth, and you've already identified that you might have some limiting beliefs around money. You're aware of them and you're ready to change. Then you get a parking ticket or an unexpected bill appears. How are you going to react? Are you going to return to the same internal monologue of money always comes with challenges, I never have enough of it, every time I get money, it disappears? And if you continue to react the same way that you have always reacted, you are clearly telling the universe that you are not ready to evolve. You can work on those limiting beliefs, but if you don't pass these tests where those beliefs will be challenged, you will continue to reinforce to the universe that you are not ready and that those beliefs have not been changed. If you handle situations the same as you always have and wonder why your relationship with money or people never improves, you need to look at, why am I handling the situation the way that I always have? On the other hand, in this example, if you are able to see that unexpected bill or parking ticket as a test, you are then going to be able to actively choose to react differently than you have in the past. You may have a moment of frustration, of course, about the unexpected expense, but instead this time you're going to declare that you trust God, you trust the universe, that money always returns, and you have more than enough to pay this amount off. This is declaring to the universe that you are ready to evolve and transform. And you will continue to be tested a lot of times with like the exact same scenarios until you choose to respond differently. And I understand that it's easier to stay the same. And I think most of us, when we are met with these repeating patterns, just default to what we've always done. We continue to rant about the same problems at work, skip out on the workouts or diet that we started, or chase the same people who clearly don't want us. And changing your life and creating what you desire rests upon your ability to show up differently this time. And it's difficult, right? We are so used to the habits and the routines and the ways that we've always reacted and dealt with situations in the past, and we're comfortable showing up the same even if it's not producing the results that we want. And I think that's often why we get the same tests over and over. And I mean, I've experienced this myself a lot in terms of attracting situationships in the past, never understanding like, why can't I get someone who wants to date me? Because it's like, babe, they don't want to date you, but every time you actually stick around until like they completely exit your life instead of choosing yourself every time. And like, once you start to pick up on the patterns and situations that repeat, you will be able to understand how you've been reacting similarly in the past and then how you can handle the situation differently this time. And this can seriously apply to so many different areas. And I think it's really highlighted within our reactions to things and the way that we handle situations when they go wrong. And I think that's why this lesson is like a great encompassment of the other two, and they all work together to help you see that you have to have trust, you have to have accountability, and you have to show up differently. You have to change. You cannot evolve by staying the same, and you are going to get nowhere, and you're going to keep wondering why you don't produce the results that you want. But it's like, how are you going to produce something new doing the same old shit? It's not going to work. So if you keep seeing these repeating patterns or situations that aren't what you want, but a lot of the time they're going to be in an area that you're trying to manifest in, I want you to take a look at what these might be testing you on. It could be your beliefs, your self-worth, your commitment to your goals. I think that's a big one. I think the universe loves to test how committed we are to our goals. And you oftentimes are going to be tested over and over to see if you're really as ready as you say that you are. And I think that's why these situations repeat. If you're ready to be the highest version of yourself and live your dream life, you better show up as the highest version of yourself in that situation. And I think that's really what I realized last year, is that if I'm continuing to try to rise, continuing to try to evolve, and I have this vision of who my ideal self is, how would she react to these situations? How is she going to handle that? You need to take every challenging situation that comes your way and let it instantly hit, this is a test. How would this highest version of myself react to it? And then react that way. God is going to test you over and over to see if you are ready for what you say you are. Because I think that this is not a bad thing, right? I think in ways we need to be tested, because if God is going to throw you a curveball and see if you're ready for what you say you are and you're really not ready, it's not your time. And then you don't need to question why your manifestations aren't coming through, because again, you're co-creating with the universe, you're attracting what you are, you're trusting that things are unfolding the way that it's supposed to. You're just not ready. If you are not able to have that awareness around what you are putting out into the world, what you are reacting to, how you handle challenging situations, you might just not be ready. And that's okay. It is all about cultivating this process and this understanding around the way that our life unfolds in order for us to have more peace with it and have a little bit more of a hand in that co-creation. I often think that these tests will come when that big manifestation is really close. I'm not talking like days apart, but if you feel like something comes up that is really relating to an area that you have a big goal around, I want alarm bells to be going off. I'm being tested. What do I need to do differently this time? How would the highest version of me handle this situation? And I hope this doesn't sound scary to you, because to me it's actually exciting. Maybe because I've always been good at tests in school, but I think that these present such a clear opportunity to succeed. The universe is literally giving you the chance to show up as the highest version of yourself. You have the opportunity to approach old situations with your new energy. It's seriously amazing. It shouldn't scare you, because you should be so sure of what you want, who you want to be, what that energy looks like, how they would react to these situations, that you're so ready for when these tests come up and you're like, bam, that's it. I knew it was coming and I'm ready to handle it. The only reason you might be scared is, again, because you might realize you're not ready for change. That's a whole other conversation. But if you are ready for change and if you are ready to rise, then I want you to look forward to these tests. I want you to have the chance to embody that best, highest version of yourself and handle life differently than you ever have before. I think that's the end of this episode. I did not realize how much I missed this and how kind of just like effortless and free flowing this was. So I just thank you all so much for spending time here with me today. Don't forget to check out the episode description for the links to all of the social medias. Check us out on YouTube if you want to see my smiling face, and Sedona made an appearance as well. And I can't wait to talk to you all next week. Sending you love and light.